Hello book friends, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the romance portion of my 5-month long wrap-up video. It took a lot longer to film the first one than I thought it would, so we're just going to move all of the romance books into this. So first off, we're going to start with Mariana Zapata's new book came out called The Things We Water. This is her second foray into, I don't know, the first one might have been more sci-fi, but this is her first foray into like a romantic-y situation in which the paranormal is real. And so you have a girl that has some powers, but she doesn't know where they come from because she doesn't know who her family is, and she's desperately trying to find a place to go because she has accidentally found a puppy who is magical, and she needs to hide him from the humans pretty much until he has a chance to grow into who he's going to be. And so she takes him to this like ranch kind of that is set aside for the privacy of magical beings, and she is trying to figure out who she is, and she's trying to figure out who Duncan the puppy is, while falling in love with the werewolf who is in charge of running the ranch. And it was so sweet. It was so cute. I think it's one of my new favorite Mariana Zapata books. I just loved the world so much. I loved the characters so much. I would die for Duncan. I'm not going to lie to you about that. That puppy is so freaking cute, and I just, oh, it was so good. Next, I read Deep End by Ali Hazelwood, because I hadn't gotten around to that one yet, and I enjoyed it immensely. It's her first, like, sportsy romance. Olympic candidate. I don't know if they were actually Olympians yet. Olympian-esque diver meets Olympian swimmer, or training to be an Olympian swimmer. People were saying that this was like her riskiest one yet, and it's like the most, like the kinkiest one that she's written yet, and that it's very 50 Shades of Grey coded. I disagree with all of that. I don't want to say that it was vanilla by any means, but I also don't think that it was like nearly as kinky as a lot of people were trying to say, but I enjoyed it still. Then I read Good Girl by Piper Lawson. I'm not going to lie to you, I don't actually remember this book other than that it was really short, and I believe it was a rock star romance, and it ended on a cliffhanger, and I hate that. Like, I don't need you to write me a romance novel that is supposed to be like done and over in 300 pages and then cliffhanger it with absolutely no reason into, like, I feel like KU does this a lot, and it's to get more clicks on pages and stuff. Like, I want, when I am looking for a one and done romance, I would like a one and done romance, and not like some unexpected series of created out of nowhere situations that make it drag on and on and on, you know? So I think I gave this like 3 stars. I might have given it less than 3 stars, but it was fine, I guess. Then I read Rewind It Back by Liz Tomford, also amazing. I love Liz Tomford, talked about her a lot on the channel. This is the most recent, the final book in her Windy City series, and this follows Rio, who is historically the golden retriever puppy coated member of the hockey team, and he is in a second chance romance with his childhood girlfriend, and it was maybe my second favorite, maybe tied for first favorite of the entire series. Then I was fortunate enough to be sent an arc of A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. This is, I don't know if it's next in her series. It didn't feel particularly intertwined with the previous book, which is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, but it was also good nonetheless. She is a innkeeper, but all of her magic, I believe, is gone, and she has no way to get it back because she expended it trying to bring her aunt back to life when her aunt unexpectedly passed away. She was supposed to be this like magical prodigy, like the hope of the future. Nobody was going to be as powerful as her, and she gave it all to keeping her aunt alive. In doing so, she creates this like magical inn that only appears to the people who need it the most at the time, and you cue the male love interest who is bringing his younger autistic sister, both of whom have magical powers, and he just needs a place for his sister to feel comfortable to be herself, and he can feel comfortable to, I don't know, also be himself, I guess. And he obviously falls in love with the innkeeper, and they find a way to get her magic back because there's no other way that that should go, right? Okay, so the next one up is What Fury Brings by Trisha Levenseller. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this book made me super uncomfy. I received an arc of this from NetGalley, and the entire premise behind it is a fantasy. It's an adult fantasy romance in which, in this particular country, it is female-led, and everything that has been done to women historically throughout the years in this country has been done to men. They are essentially slaves, and the things that have been done to women throughout history are bad, right? Like treated as property, not given any rights in their own bodily autonomy. There's so many bad things that we could talk about that have happened to women throughout the years because of the patriarchy. And but to be done to anyone, it's still bad, you know? Like, this felt a little like retribution-y instead of a discussion of like why the things that have been done to women were inhumane. And just because they were done to us doesn't mean that doing them in turn to men, like, it was uncomfy to read. The men didn't have any autonomy. It got a little consensually questionable in several different places, and that made me super uncomfy. I don't know what I ended up giving this. The rest of it, the romance was like very, again, consensually questionable. I just don't know. I've liked most of Trisha Levenseller's other stuff, and this I just was super uncomfy with. Next up was No More Secrets by Lucy Score. I love Lucy Score's writing. She's fun, she's rom-com-y, she's small town most of the time. It's always hilarious, and No More Secrets was no different. This is the first of her Blue Moon series, and in this one, I believe she is like a writer for a magazine, and this family that runs this ranch in this small town is like the center of the article that she's writing. And so, sorry if I keep glancing off to the side, Jack's monitor is over there, so I'm just like keeping an eye to make sure that he is in fact still napping. Anyway, so yeah, she is interviewing the guy, one of the sons of this like family ranch, to write an article about their entire like livelihood and stuff. And obviously they fall in love. It was super cute. It was a fun time. As a palate cleanser, I feel like I always need to go back to Lucy Score's like series of small town romance because they're always a lot of fun. Next, I read The Undermining of Twyla and Frank by Megan Bannon. This is book 2. I want to say it's book 2 in The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. This takes place several years after The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. I've talked about this a few times on my channel. I love that first book, and the world of, I don't remember, Tanria, I believe is what it's called, is so different. It's the fantasy aspect of it is so different from anything that I've ever read. And in The Undermining of Frank and Twyla and Frank, however the order goes, they are older. I want to say they're in their 50s. They've been partners as Tanrian marshals for a very long time after his wife left and her husband died. Very friends to lovers, but also a very cute aspect in that Frank has to kind of become the mother figure for a baby dragon. And the baby dragon is adorable. There's a mystery aspect to it as well, and it was just a lot of fun. Megan Bannon's like Tanria series is always a super fun time. Moving on, I was sent an arc of A Scar in the Bone by Sophie Jordan. This is the second in the duology. I want to say the first book was A Fire in the Sky that I read last year, and I remember talking to you guys about it. I remember being super favorable about it because it was like a dragon shapeshifter romance, marriage of forced marriage. She was the whipping girl, but also sort of princess who got given away in marriage to the barbarians of the, I don't remember directionally where they're from, the west, the north, something like that, you know what I'm saying? So she gets given away as like his prize for keeping the kingdom safe or something like that, and then they fall in love, and it's very cute. And then this book happened, and it feels like something huge. We missed something huge because I don't really know, is it a spoiler? It doesn't spoil anything that happens in the first book, and it happens on page 1 in the second book, so I'm going to call it not a spoiler. They end the first book in love, and the second book, he's dead. He's just dead. And it's like a year later, and you don't know what happened to him, or how it happened to him, or what's going on, and she decides to like leave the place of safety that they fled to. That part I won't say because of spoilers. I just feel like I missed something huge. I feel like we could have put this all into one much larger book, and maybe we didn't have to do the death thing because that was unnecessary, and it's fine. I just didn't really like this anywhere near as much as the first one. Then I read Problematic Summer Romance by Ali Hazelwood. This is age gap, technically, brother's best friend kind of situation. Mia, I think is her name. She is the younger sister of Ethan from Not in Love, and they are going to Italy for Ethan and Rue's wedding. And so obviously Mia has to be there, and she has had a crush on Ethan's best friend Connor for a very long time. Long story short, they fall in love. I had a great time. I liked it a lot. I don't know why anybody might have had any issues with it. I think there was a cameo from the characters of Deep End, which is delightful, and probably one of my more favorite Ali Hazelwood romances that I've read in a while. Then we read The Undercutting of Rosie and Adam. This is book 3 in the Tanria series by Megan Bannon. I probably should have grouped them together, but I didn't because now I'm in order for some reason. I don't know. Sorry, guys. So this one takes place, I don't know, a while after that second book, and Tanria is an established, like, the marshals aren't needed anymore. Tanria is now like a, I don't know, wilderness preserve, kind of, you could say. Rosie is she's a demigod that's gonna live forever, and that's like a big character trait for her because everyone she loves always dies. Adam is the guy who created the portals that allowed you to travel between Tamria and the name of the other country escapes me. And the portals are on the fritz, and Adam and Rosie and a couple of other fun people get stuck in Tamria as everything is kind of breaking down. So they need to figure out what's going on and get home. And it was a good time. I loved it a lot. Then I received an arc of Knife in the Back by Karen Rose. This is the latest of her New Orleans series, and perhaps my favorite of the New Orleans series. You follow Burke. Burke is kind of the figurehead of the entire New Orleans operation, right? So they have the private investigative firm, and Burke is in charge of it, and he ends up falling for a woman who has just recently gotten out of jail. She's a former police officer that was put in jail for, I believe, stealing a brick of cocaine or something like that. Falsely accused, falsely imprisoned, gets out on a technicality, but now the people that put her in jail the first time, that like framed her for it, are trying to do it again. And she asks Burke for help, and he does, because he can't help, he can't help himself. Obviously, I liked it. I feel like I don't even need to bother saying that with Karen Rose anymore. If you're looking for romantic suspense, read Karen Rose. After that, I read For Whom the Bell Tolls by J.C. Lynn. This has been coming up a lot for me recently, and I loved it. I had an amazing time. It's lengthy, but it was so good. And I don't remember character names, but she dies of cancer in the very beginning of the book. That's not a spoiler. And goes to like the afterlife. And in this particular afterlife, if you go to the good place, you get to choose how you are going to, where you want to spend your paradise. What she does is she goes down to hell. She's got a lot of unresolved Christian guilt happening right here. So she goes down to hell and she starts a help desk to help the demons down there who are like navigating the line of people making their way down to hell. But she's got a lot of customer service, experience. And so she makes a help desk in which she can just beat the shit out of people whenever she wants to, if they're being too shitty to her, which is cathartic, one could say. And she falls in love with the demon. It's a great time. I enjoyed this. It deserves a reread. It doesn't really feel like spooky season material, but like, I don't know, it was fun. So I'm gonna try and reread that sometime soon, I think, just because I had a great time. Next is What I Did for a Duke by Julie Ann Long. I don't really remember the specifics of this historical romance other than it's like fake dating as she's trying to get the guy that she's really interested in jealous, and the guy that she uses to fake date is a duke, and I don't remember what he gets out of it per se. But typically in these historical romances, if he does this, he gets a break from, all of the matchmaking that is currently happening because he's an unwedded duke. Maybe his last fiance cheated on him with the girl's brother. I think that is a thing that happened. Oh, that's what he gets. He gets the joy of making the guy who slept with his fiance essentially super uncomfortable, trying to figure that's his revenge, is pretending to date the guy's sister. And she gets the interest of the guy that she is into, who is actually in love with her best friend. Super messy, but it was a good time. It was very entertaining. The humor was on point, and it had a happy ending, obviously. First, I'm going to talk about Hidden Nature by Nora Roberts, because that was her new standalone mystery release. And in Hidden Nature, you follow, it's like a Maryland wilderness police situation. What are they called? Natural Resources Police officers. Sloane Cooper is the main character. She got shot in the line of duty, and she's like trying to recover. So she's like at home with her parents, recovering from being shot essentially and almost dying. It's very Rear Window coded because she kind of gets involved in solving like a serial killer kind of situation of crimes, because she's on her sickbed and she has attention and time, and she just dedicates it to this, and somehow manages to draw in, I want to say he's a lawyer, is the male lead, who he and his brother just recently bought a hardware store and like a construction company in this small town in Maryland, and decided to leave the big New York City life and do this instead. They fall in love and they find the bad guy because it's a Nora Roberts standalone, so it was a good time. We're going to speed through this next part because July was my month of Elsie Silver. I went deep into an Elsie Silver rabbit hole, and I had a wonderful time doing it. So first I read the Rose Hill series, which is Wild Love, Wild Eyes, and Wild Side. That takes place in Rose Hill. She's writing the next Rose Hill book. I think it'll come out soon, Question mark? At some point it's coming out with the fourth one, and I'm very excited for that. That's going to be awesome. Small town Canada, cowboy ranch romance type situations. I don't need to get into the specifics of each one, just know that they're all entertaining as hell, they're all very spicy, and they are all very good. Then I read the entire Chestnut Springs series, which is, I'm just going to read them because I'm not going to remember: Flawless, Heartless, Powerless, Reckless, and Hopeless. That's 5 books. You follow a family and the friends that are connected to that family in the town of Chestnut Springs. This is a series that comes before the Rose Hill series. I guess I should have prefaced that I read these backwards. So it should have been Gold Rush Ranch, then Chestnut Springs, then Rose Hill, and I did Rose Hill, then Chestnut Springs, then Gold Rush Ranch, and I don't really mind doing that at all. It was a great time. So we read all of the brothers from Chestnut Springs and all of the friends of the brothers in that family also. I liked that a lot. I don't know if I like Chestnut Springs or Rose Hill better. I think I liked Rose Hill better, but Chestnut Springs was fun too. They run this ranch together. These brothers do, except for Bo, who was like former military, who's like coming back home to the family, etc. So that was good. And then I went back and I read all of Gold Rush Ranch, which is Off to the Races, A Photo Finish, A False Start, and The Front Runner. These were her first books that I could find, and in my opinion were the weakest. I did not like these nearly as much. They just felt a little bit too, I don't even have a good word for them. I just felt like the writing wasn't as good in these as in the later series. So if you read them in order. Don't do what I did. So that wraps up my Elsie Silver extravaganza. I also, in the month of July, read Neverthorn by Shannon Meyer. This is Shannon Meyer's new release. She's a pretty prolific fantasy romance author on a lot of KU. I am an influencer for the Crowns and Chaos PR group, and they sent out a blast asking to read these arcs and promote Neverthorn for Shannon Meyer, and this was a lot of fun. She's an older character. I think she's in her 30s, and she had attended this magical academy as a teenager, I think. Not for very long. I think she got expelled and didn't really have any magical ability to speak of, so she's been surviving on her own in the real world, but has been prophesied to go back to this academy called Neverthorn, along with several other people that were in a similar situation to her when they attended the school, and they are put into a new house, and bad things are happening because the bad guys are about to win, essentially. The second book is coming out soon, so if you want to check it out, I would give it a shot. It's magical world. I don't want to throw around the Harry Potter for adults thing because I feel like that gets thrown around way too much, but magical academy, magical world, main character in her 30s in said academy, and just like romance happening. Enemies to lovers, of course. Why would it be anything else? Then I read The Love Haters by Catherine Center, and I didn't really like this very much. I like Catherine Center a lot. The Bodyguard was one of my favorite reads when I read it at the time. This one was different in that I feel like it belongs more in like a women's fiction, I don't know, literary fiction category than actual like romance. There is a romance, but it was very like, I don't know, in the background almost, because it was more about this woman like realizing some truths about herself and accepting some faults within herself and moving on from there. I don't remember the main character's names, let's be honest. There's this woman who works for like this movie editing, video editing company, I guess you could say, and they've been hired to do a commercial for not the National Guard, the Coast Guard. And the guy who was supposed to be doing it doesn't want to because he doesn't get along with his brother, and his brother is the Coast Guard member who they have been told that they are like using to film this recruiting video. So he sends her in his place, and so she goes down there, but she can't swim. That's a big thing. She doesn't know how to swim, and that's a problem because a lot of the things that they're going to be doing are going to be filmed like in a helicopter on a boat over the water because Coast Guard, duh. And so she's got a lot of this fear happening, and she had just gotten broken up with, I think, so like that's a whole thing. She's got a lot of mental stuff that she's dealing with. And so she goes and she falls in love with the brother, obviously, but like she realizes a lot about herself in the meantime, and that kind of takes the foreground on the whole thing. Then I had received an arc of Most Eligible by Isabel Engel. This is about a woman who goes on a Bachelor TV show, but she's a journalist, and she's trying to expose that this Bachelor TV show is like harmful to the contestants that go on it, and like she wants to do an expose on the whole behind the scenes, essentially. Problem is that she had had a one-night stand with the famous country singer who ends up being the host of this TV show. And so she has to hide what she's really there for. She has to hide like her identity, her real identity, or I guess she used a fake identity with him technically. So this is kind of her real identity. There's lots of secrets happening. They have to fight their attraction as she tries to make it to the later rounds of this Bachelor-coded reality TV show so that she can get as much information as possible. So she's pretending to be in love with the Bachelor guy and trying not to be in love with the host, and it's obviously not working out great for her. But I liked it a lot. We're almost to the end. I swear. We're so close. I can see the finish line. This has been absurdly long. I'm so sorry. So then I read Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. Fantasy romance in which the main character, you guys have seen this book everywhere. It's been all over the place. And the next book comes out in the spring. You follow a princess whose sister was supposed to be married off to this like neighboring country, and instead the prince picks her, and there's a whole bunch of rules of this world in which that describe why he's allowed to do so. So she's completely unprepared for this. The sister is pissed off at her because she's been training her whole life for this, and she goes off to this other world to be married to the prince and his very handsome, broody bodyguard called the Guardian. Problem, she's married to the prince, but she gets feelings for the Guardian. I liked it. I enjoyed it. She was a little bit naive and a little bit whiny for me, but like it was fine. I probably gave it like 4.5 stars, something like that, and I can't wait for the sequel to come out. Then I read The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic, which was marketed as Gilmore Girls meets Practical Magic, and I do see the practical magic thing, and I did like the recipes that were included in this book. But it's about a woman who lives with her grandmother. They own this bakery together, and she does all of the cooking, I guess, for it. And long story short, the grandmother gets sick and is like dying, and she has to like work her way through the grief and all of this stuff. And her childhood-ish love waltzes back into town after 10 years with no word. He just like left and ghosted her, and she was heartbroken and she had to get over that. And so now she's dealing with him coming back into her life and the feelings reawakening for him and the grief of her grandmother and all of this other stuff, and it was fine. I don't know necessarily that I will ever reread it again. Practical Magic tracks Gilmore Girls doesn't really for me. I don't really see where that came into play at all. I was hoping for more like witchy fun, and it was, but it was also, the spice level was like less than 1, and that's not what I was looking for at that time. It's fine. It was very clean. They kissed at the end. It was more churchy than I expected, which is fine if that's your thing. It wasn't really my thing. They were like quoting Bible stories and Psalms and like going to church and stuff in the midst of all of that. So if that's something that you're into, check this one out. It was a clean romance with religion. Then I read On Wings of Blood by Briar Bolin, and I don't think this book knew where it needed to go. So you have King Arthur, because she's like a relative of Morgana Le Fay, but she's been transported into a world where there are vampires and dwarves and dragons, and they keep telling her that her red hair and her physique mean that she's a dragon rider, and they keep talking about her physique in a way that was like really kind of weird for me, and it was fine. It was fine. It took me a very long time to read it, I think, because I just didn't know what direction it was going to go. And they held on just a little bit too long for me for the enemies to lovers aspect. She like goes there, and because she's a dragon rider in the first one, that's a big deal that she's a dragon rider, because like she is the first one that they've seen in centuries or something like that. I don't know. They don't have any dragons anymore, so it's kind of pointless. And so she gets like automatically betrothed to the nephew of like the vampire king lord person. So that happened, and obviously she's gonna fall in love with him, but right now she hates his guts and he hates her guts, and that lasted just like a really long time with no interaction in between the two, which was not really what I was there for. Maybe book 2 will get better. Maybe I'll read book 2. I haven't decided yet, because right now what I'm in the middle of is a Stasia Stark rabbit hole. I read Bargains with Beasts by Stasia Stark. So that I read 2 of the 3 books in that series, because the 2 is like the witch falling in love with the werewolf alpha, and that was a great time. But then I went back, I did the same thing with Elsie Silver that I did with this one. So I read the last trilogy before I read any of the other series, and I liked that one so much, but there was like a lot that I had clearly missed, plot-wise and backstory-wise, from previous books, that I decided to go back and read the Deals with Demons series, and that is what I am currently in the middle of. So I read Unnatural Magic and Unbroken Magic. That is Evie and Nathaniel, the witch and the werewolf characters. And then I went back and I started reading the Deals with Demons series, which is Speak of the Demon, Fool of the Demon, Play with the Demon, Luck of the Demon. And I am currently on book 5, which is Demon's Advocate. I am having a wonderful time. These are filling all of my October spooky vibes, because it is a paranormal world. it's our world essentially, but portals opened allowing paranormals into our world, and now they're like out, and there's like human rights groups because they want equality for the humans that don't have any powers. So obviously Danica falls in love with the king of the demons. His name is Samael, and it's a great time. I don't know how their story's going to end yet because I'm on book 5 of the 6. So I'm pretty excited to figure out what's going to happen next. The stakes are high, and it's been great. So I had a really great time with all of the Stacey Stark books. I'm ongoing, and I can't wait to see where it goes next. And that finally wraps up the romance books that I read for the last 5 months, because that was a long time coming. I'm glad that I gotten it over with, and I only did it in 2 videos, so yay, go me, I guess. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because it really helps out my channel. Down in the description box, you're going to see links to my Goodreads, my Twitter, X, Instagram, and my Storygraph. All of the other links and Unplugged book box rep code is down there as well. Go check that out. But thank you guys for watching. I will catch you in my next one. Bye!